This little-known account of a bizarre haunting in 1871 Memphis still has paranormal historians scratching their heads. In around 1859, a wealthy bank president called Colonel W.J. Davie built an impressive two-story mansion at 683 Fifth Street in Memphis, only to lose it with the outbreak of the Civil War when his loan stocks plummeted. The new owner, Colonel Robert C. Brinkley, repurposed the mansion as a school for girls, and in 1868 the Brinkley Female College opened its doors as a boarding school housing 50 students. The stately new college already had a reputation for one haunting by Davie, who was rumoured to have lost his sanity after his descent into bankruptcy. However, within 3 years, another spirit was to cause chaos. On February 21, 1871, a blonde-haired day student named Clara Robertson, aged 13, was practicing piano in an upstairs room of the Brinkley Female College when she observed a small, emaciated girl of about 8 years old wearing a dirty pink dress coming towards her. In a panic, Clara rushed to another room, jumped onto the bed, and hid her face in the pillow. The small phantom girl silently followed Clara into the room and rested her hand on the pillow by Clara's head. The terrified student repeatedly motioned the ghost away, and after a few minutes it disappeared. Of course, Clara's classmates did not believe her account, and she ran home crying because of all their teasing. On her return to school the next day, no one mentioned the incident, and Clara decided that it may have been a prank. However, the day after that, the little girl again appeared to Clara in the music room, and on this occasion there were 2 other students present. All the girls screamed and ran downstairs to get a teacher, but this time when Clara returned to the upstairs room, the little girl spoke to her. The small spectre told her that there were valuable objects buried in the yard, and she wanted Clara to find them. The Waukesha Plain Dealer newspaper reported on the incident as related by Clara and described the small ghost as a very thin, sad girl wearing a tattered pink dress which was partially tainted with green mould. On the ghost's third appearance, only days later, Clara fetched a teacher, Miss Jackie Boone, who witnessed the spectral girl pointing in a southerly direction. When Clara now summoned the nerve to ask the ghost what she wanted, the reply came that Clara was to uncover some valuables hidden under a tree stump some 50 yards from the house. Strangely, while another student present heard the ethereal conversation, the teacher heard only a rumbling noise. At this stage, Clara's father, a prominent Memphis lawyer, and the school principal, Mr. Meredith, decided to investigate the bizarre phenomenon. The following week, Mr. Meredith questioned all the other students about the ghost, while Clara was told to wait outside in the schoolyard. There, the small spectre appeared to her again, telling Clara not to be alarmed, that her name was Lizzie and she meant her no harm. Lizzie told Clara that her family had owned the large house which had been stolen from them, and that she wanted Clara to prove and redress this wrongdoing by finding the title deeds and other valuables buried in the yard. She said that Clara could then claim ownership of the property, but added the veiled threat that if Clara did not do what she asked, then Lizzie would never do any good to anyone. By this time, Clara and many other Brinkley students were too terrified to return to the college, and its teachers were refusing to work. A client of Clara's father, a Mrs. Norse, was a spiritual medium whom he approached for help. Mrs. Norse held a seance at the Roberts' home, which was attended by several neighbours acting as witnesses. Soon after the seance started, something seemed to take over Clara, who sat slumped back with wide open eyes, then flailed her arms around so that she needed to be restrained. After calming down, she was given a pencil and paper where she wrote at an incredible speed and then filled page after page with events of the past week and answers to the visitors' questions. The medium wrote down the name of the spirit as Lizzie Davie, who, through Clara, told of the valuables buried in the schoolyard. Beneath a tree stump, 5 feet down, there lay jewellery, several $1,000s, and the title to the property. Men present at the seance immediately set off for the schoolyard to locate the stump and start digging. The school principal, Mr. Meredith, agreed to this, knowing it was the only way to resolve the issue and keep his prestigious college viable. Clara came out of her trance, rubbing her eyes and claiming to be unaware of what had just happened. At this point, the Memphis press became obsessed with reports of the Pink Lizzie ghost story, with bars creating ghost cocktails for customers and spiritual mediums hosting seances all over the city. Clara started to attend some of these seances, channeling Lizzie via slate writing. With the men continuing to dig under the tree stump, watched by hundreds of onlookers, at about 5 feet down they discovered only a layer of bricks. At this time, Clara was home when Lizzie again appeared to her, asking why she was not digging, as she was the one meant to find the valuables. After she had then disappeared, Clara went straight to the school and told the men digging what had happened. As she reportedly stepped into the hole dug by the men, she fainted and on coming to, told them that she had seen a glass jar which contained the said valuables. On Clara's return home, Mrs. Norse was called for another séance, when Clara told Lizzie that she was unable to dig and asked if her father could take her place. Lizzie agreed, but said that once her father recovered the glass jar, it could not be opened for 60 days. Mr. Robertson and a team of diggers then returned to the schoolyard, and after about an hour of shovelling, he found a mouldy jar which appeared to contain several weighty bags and packages and a large yellow envelope. He brought the jar home and secreted it in the most secure place he could think of, the outhouse. Clara was sent to stay with relatives for a rest until it was time to open the jar. Mr. Robertson was planning to open the jar at the Greenlaw Opera House, where for $1 members of the public could witness the big reveal. Half the proceeds were to go to Clara for her efforts and the other half to an orphanage called Church Home. However, the big event never happened, as prior to that, Mr. Robertson threw a party which was disturbed by the outside noise of thieves stealing the jar. They struck him over the head, leaving him bleeding and unconscious, and the jar was never recovered. Because Lizzie's request was never fulfilled, it appeared to some that some kind of curse was placed upon the school. Brinkley Female College closed down soon after the events in 1871, whereupon Mr. Meredith opened the Meredith Female College at another location. However, his new, renamed school survived for only 3 years. The house owner, Brinkley, now faced difficulties finding tenants for his property, which was eventually sold and divided into apartments for railroad workers' families, and then became tenement housing. In 1972, the large mansion was dismantled and reconstructed in another state. Even after the home was gone and new warehouses built on the land, it was rumoured that contractors working night shifts would still hear strange sounds, papers would fly off shelves, and extreme temperature changes would occur in the buildings. Regarding Clara Robertson, one of her closest friends in school called Lula Franklin said that Clara was a changed girl after the strange events. She said that Clara became distant and began to practice spiritualism at home when her public seances became outmoded compared with the new touring medium shows. It was also said that she married a widowed spiritualist whose first wife's ghost would kick Clara out of her bed at night. In 1871, friends of the Davie family had come forward and verified that the information Clara had imparted was true. Young Lizzie Davie had died in the house in 1861 and had been buried in her favourite pink dress.